otherwise, but yeah, I'm volunteering Stuart and Mary again if a question pops up in the Q&A, if you could maybe type an answer in a few minutes. But thank you, that was really great. Um, this is going well. We're just moving through these. This is awesome. All right, so next up we have Lynn and Elizabeth. If you'd like to go ahead and share your screen and take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Peters. This is Lynn Moulton, and we are both processing archivists at Burns Library at Boston College. So we're here to share two bulk projects to enhance our description based on feedback from our public-facing staff. Since this is a lightning talk, we're going to share just the highlights, but we'd love to talk more with you about the details later. Check that chat. So a little bit of background. At Burns Library, we regularly revise our description in response to staff and patron feedback, as well as to changing professional practices. And the systems we use have also evolved over time, including just in the last decade, moving from Archivist Toolkit to ArchivesSpace staff interface to using the ArchivesSpace PUI. Some of the data practice that we originally put in place for Toolkit and PDF finding aids have become less useful or even obstructive as we adopt more functionality in ASpace.
Our curators, reference staff, and instruction librarians are our direct line to our users. We've established 3 standing mechanisms to get their feedback: a Google form for reporting specific issues, structured data from curators to augment existing description, and a standing committee with representatives from the library systems, special collections public services, and archives collection management departments. Last year, we took on 2 data enhancement projects based on feedback.
So the first project was to augment recently described Irish music collections with details about musicians in the Irish traditional music scene that our Irish music librarian, Beth Sweeney, had built through years of community involvement. Beth made a detailed spreadsheet with people's names, short biographies, and archival objects that describe their recordings of their work that we hold in our collections. And it was impossible to add this information in bulk to ASpace using native upload spreadsheets, because there's no spreadsheet for adding agents, and the bulk edit spreadsheet isn't robust enough for the level of detail that we wanted. So I turned to the API. I selected existing Python scripts written by staff at MIT for a similar project that they were doing, and I adapted them for our needs. And the final workflow looked like this. First, we populate the CSV with information from Beth's spreadsheet. Then I ran a postscript on that CSV, which had to be iterated for people and corporate agents, since the information included in each of those is slightly different. And then I populated a CSV with information from Beth's spreadsheet matched with agent IDs that were returned from that postscript. And then I ran a linking script on the second CSV, which is a get, and then an append, and then a post.
The second project stemmed from a committee meeting about making access notes less confusing for both patrons and staff. We learned that our often lengthy collection-level access notes were overwhelming to users, and our slightly overzealous use of the local access restriction type at the collection level was causing all boxes within collections to appear restricted. Since we needed to clean up data across our 1,000 resources and about 180,000 archival objects, the API was the best tool. This cleanup included 3 phases, each one more complex than the last. First, we needed an aggregated list of all collection-level access notes for selective manual editing. Getting this as a spreadsheet just required running an existing get resources Python script to do a big data grab of all the resource subrecords, importing the data into OpenRefine, selecting the access note, and exporting the results. The second step was to remove a legacy restrictions on access note label that was both misleading and overriding display for the note in the PUI. This required a script with 3 steps: a get of the original data, a replacement of the label subfield content with nothing, an empty string, and a post of the data back via the API. Twice I hit roadblocks with my modified Python script that required community support. A portion of my script began to fail after we upgraded our ArchivesSpace test instance, and the wonderful ASpace community list was able to identify the solution. And because the script was making changes to many of our nearly 180,000 archival objects, a heavier load on the system, our library systems staff suggested a slight pause or sleep programmed into the script loop and some additional error handling to prevent failing in the middle of a run. For the final step, to disassociate a custom local access restriction type from all records while retaining the note language, I further modified the script I'd just written. I leaned on Stacked Overflow's post to learn how to remove the restriction from the JSON entirely, rather than replacing it. This is all to say, I find working with Python scripts to be a lot like using Excel. If you know what they're capable of and roughly how they work, you can often adapt someone else's work to meet your needs. I chose tools I had some familiarity with, did research, and got help when I got stuck. And the technical side of this approach is just going to get easier as AI lowers the threshold to writing a script for an Excel function.
I also found that having a buddy to work with makes a huge difference. So I've had Lynn to bounce ideas off of and get me unstuck, as well as other friends and colleagues who can give me more detailed feedback when I need it. We're super grateful to our colleagues at other ASpace institutions who post their code and workflows for reuse, and we're hoping that our contributions can likewise help others. Especially in light of the recent discussions on the ASpace listserv about training for using the API and developing bulk workflows, we wanted to share our successes in leveraging relatively small amounts of experience to have big impacts. Working with the API doesn't require a tremendous amount of coding know-how, just creativity and using skills that you already have. And we've included in our slides a link to our GitHub repository with this code. And also there's a picture of a former BC professor and his dog. And that is all for us. If we can answer any questions now, or you can contact us later.
Thank you so much. I appreciate those conclusions, especially like you leveraging the power of work others have done and in small ways making those changes. I think that is important to remember. And I like the comparison Python scripts and Excel, because Excel is a really powerful tool that can be confusing, but we've all learned how to work with spreadsheets, so we can do this too. I think that was really good. If anyone has any questions for the Q&A, please, or has any questions, please pop them into the Q&A. We're at the stage in the forum where I stop remembering how to make sentences, which is great because I'm the next presenter. But if anyone has any questions, please do drop those in, and we'll answer them. We have a couple minutes. But if we're not seeing any, we'll move on. I do want to give time. But if people think of questions, or if you're furiously typing your question right now and you don't get it submitted before we move on, again, volunteering Elizabeth and Lynn, if you could type the answers into the question that pop up. Yeah, otherwise we will go ahead and keep moving. Oh, we got a question. See, if I talk slow enough, we'll get a question. Did you end up